Watch this to learn everything you need to know about uncountable nouns in English. Let's look at the different uncountable word types. First of all, liquids. For example, water is a liquid. Water flows from the rivers to the sea. And because water is uncountable, we don't put an S at the end of it and we don't make it plural. It's not one water, two waters, three waters. It's always just water. Other examples of liquids include milk, oil, or lava, which is the liquid that comes out of a volcano. Another type of uncountable word is a noun that's usually measured by volume, not the individual parts, such as sand. We look at sand and consider it to be all one volume on a beach, not individual grains. For example, I can see sand at the beach. Not I can see sands, a million sands, a billion sands. No, it's just I can see sand at the beach. And other words that we treat in the same way are sand, as well as sand are flour, grass and coffee. There are some exceptions, such as the word granules. Even though they're small and there are many of them, we still count granules. But usually these words are uncountable. Also, many abstract nouns are uncountable, such as loyalty. Loyalty is highly valued by employers. Loyalty is abstract. You can't see it or feel it or hear it. It's just an idea in your mind about the way that some people always can be trusted to be good to those who they know or to do the right thing by the people that they know. They're loyal. They always stay close to other people and keep good relationships with their friends. Other words that act like this: knowledge, experience, love, hate. These are all abstract nouns. You can't see them, feel them, hear them, touch them, but you can imagine them in your mind. There are some exceptions here too, such as the word idea. You can have one idea, two ideas, three ideas, but you don't normally have one love, two loves, three loves. It's normally just love. Many concept nouns are also uncountable. For example, history. If you're studying history at school, you'd say, we're studying history this term. Not one history, two histories, just history, because it's a concept or a topic or a subject noun. Other examples are science, English, globalization. Again, some exceptions exist. Investigation can be counted. You can have one investigation, two investigations, and so on. But usually they're not. Also, collective nouns that cannot be reduced to a single item. Let me use the picture and the word to explain. We need new furniture. Furniture is a collective noun for all the different things that big items that you use in a house or a home. Such as here, you have a table and a chair. Now, because they're broken, we need new tables and new chairs. Now, the individual items are countable. We can have one table, two tables, three tables, one chair, two chairs, three chairs. But the collective noun cannot be counted. It's always just furniture, not one furniture, two furnitures, three furnitures, just furniture. And other nouns like this are cutlery. So uncountable. Cutlery would include all the different types of things you use to eat, but the individual items that you use to eat, such as spoons, are countable. Luggage describes all of the things that you have to carry your clothes or anything that you're taking on a trip, but the individual items of luggage are bags. And accommodation is all of the different places where you could stay. But the individual places are countable, such as houses are countable. Most weather types are uncountable, such as snow. Snow falls regularly in the winter, not 10 snows or 1,000 snows. It's all counted as one. It's just snow. Snow, rain, fog and wind all work in this way. Cloud is an exception. Cloud can be uncountable when you describe everything that you can see above you, but it can also be countable when you focus on if there are individual clouds in the sky. So say it's a sunny day, but there are just a few clouds, then it's countable. But if there's just general cloud across the whole sky, then you'd say, yeah, there's cloud in the sky today, and it would not be countable. Numbers as nouns are uncountable. Look at this bus. A bus crashed into a tree. 10 were injured. Now, normally here we are omitting the noun because we know what it is. It really should be 10 people were injured. But when the noun is just on its own as the subject, don't put an article in front of it. We don't say a 10. It's just 10 on its own. It could be the 10 if we're being specific. We'll come to that a bit later in the video. Adjectives that become nouns by adding ness become uncountable. For instance, the exam was failed through carelessness. So the adjective is careless, and we can make it into a noun by adding ness, carelessness, the state of being careless. It becomes a noun. But we wouldn't count it. We wouldn't say 1 carelessness, 2 carelessness. No, it's just carelessness on its own. And words such as happiness, sadness, hopelessness, cheerfulness all become uncountable because they are adjectives that have been converted to nouns in this way. And similarly, adjectives become nouns by adding hood for particular states, such as parenthood. Parenthood is a hard but rewarding task. Parenthood is the state of being a parent, and this is uncountable. Parenthood, childhood, motherhood, adulthood, stages of life, they're all uncountable. But if hood is used for another purpose, such as neighbourhood or likelihood, then it might be counted. Both of those words can be counted. You can have 2 neighbourhoods, 3 neighbourhoods, 2 likelihoods, 3 likelihoods. These words can be counted. Many nouns as activities are uncountable, such as here. Help is available if you need it. Now, we're used to help being a verb. Please help me. But sometimes we can use verbs like these as nouns. And when that happens, very often they become uncountable. Help, heat, praise, criticism all work in this way. Major illnesses or conditions are very often uncountable. My friend was diagnosed with diabetes. Diabetes is a condition where you don't produce something called insulin in your body. Other major illnesses such as cancer, flu, COVID, asthma, these do not take an article and they're not counted. They don't take the a or the un in front of them, and we don't count them. 1 cancer, 2 cancers, 4 cancers. But when we talk about some minor conditions, we can possibly count them, such as a cold, a sore throat, a headache. And here we acknowledge that there is one of them. The general rule is that minor illnesses are countable, major illnesses are not countable, but you still got to learn them one by one. Now, sometimes we can make uncountable nouns countable through a different method. So with all of the words we've just looked at that are uncountable, there are ways of making them countable, of forcing them to become countable. But we do this by adding an additional noun before them. Let's take rice, for example. Now, rice is an uncountable noun because we measure it by volume, not the individual pieces. But let's say we want to focus on one small piece. Then we would use an additional noun, grain. For example, I found a brown grain of rice at the bottom of the bag of white rice. So the rice altogether was white, but there was just one small piece that was brown. In this case, we could say a grain of rice. Now, what makes this a little more complicated is that most uncountable nouns have different words that they go with to make them countable. Here's a few simple examples, but there's a long list of examples of how to make uncountables countable through an extra noun. So a bottle of water could also be a cup of water. A slice of cake, a loaf of bread, a piece of furniture. And this list goes on. Some words have more than one possibility for that extra noun, and there's no clear pattern that you can follow here. It's very common that one uncountable noun will have a different way of becoming countable to another. Now let's go on to words that come before uncountable words. There are some words that we commonly use, such as determiners, which change depending upon whether we are describing a countable noun or an uncountable noun. And here's one example. Many and few go with countable nouns. Much and little usually go with uncountable nouns. For example, with many, I have many hopes for 2025. And that means more than one hope. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hopes. But I have little knowledge about the news. And here we don't mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 knowledges. We mean all of the knowledge together in one go. Also, this and these can go with countable nouns, but we'd only use this with uncountable nouns. We wouldn't use these. So look at these people in the picture. They're saying goodbye to each other after they've had a wonderful time together. And this is what they say. These moments have been so special. Moments countable, these. But this experience has been incredible. Experience uncountable goes with this. And perhaps the most important rule is when it comes to articles. Articles are a, an, or the. Now, the can go with any word, but a and an can only go with countable nouns. With uncountable nouns, we don't use an article. We call it zero article. So I can see a cloud in the sky. This means one individual cloud. But I can see snow falling from the sky. Here we mean all of the snow, whether it's one piece or 1,000 pieces. It's all just snow, no article. Perhaps one of the most confusing and complicated areas of uncountables is where you have words that could potentially be countable or uncountable. The first example I'm going to show you is fairly common. The other ones are less so. So let's start with the most common example of words that can be countable and uncountable. And this is to do with animals that have food from them. So when we describe the animals themselves, they're countable. And when we describe food from the animal, it's uncountable. Let's take ducks, for example. 10 ducks swam in the lake. Here the ducks are countable. There's 10 of them. We're focusing on the animal. But in the second one, we're focusing on the food that comes from the animal. Would you like duck for dinner? Now, you may end up with half of a duck, one whole duck, 2 ducks on your plate. It doesn't matter. Now it's uncountable. It's just duck. And chicken, duck and lamb all work like this. Now for some more advanced rules on words that could be both countable and uncountable. Physical items are usually countable, but sometimes physical items, when they transfer into concepts, become uncountable. Let's take the word governments to explain this. Let's imagine you live in a country where there are 2 governments, one in the north and one in the south. Here we're talking about the actual people, the actual place, the actual group that run the country. 2 governments, countable. But in the second one, good government is essential to keep law and order. Here we're just imagining the concept of a government. We're not focusing on one specific government. We're thinking about government in general and what its purpose is. And now it's uncountable. Good government. When describing a noun as a type of many, some nouns can take an article before them even if they're uncountable. Let's look at what happens to water here. I drink water every day. This is the common usage where it's uncountable. But consider the next sentence. Drink a water like no other when you go to the mountain spring. Here we're focusing on one type of water, and we are comparing it very directly to other types. And when we do this, sometimes it's not very common, but it is possible to use a before it. The effect of a is to separate it off from other types of water. When you use water uncountably, you just mean all water. You're not separating them one from the other. But a water makes it clear to the listener that you're separating off this particular type of water for a reason that makes it different to all the other types. So drink a water like no other. If you add an adjective before mental, that's thought, process, feelings, emotional, uncountable nouns, then you can add an article before it. Let's take the word ability. Ability is a mental or a type of thing that you can do that comes from your mind. It's outworked physically, but it starts in your mind. You have an ability to do something. You need ability to play this game. Here it's uncountable. But in the second example, we've put an adjective before it, excellent ability. And here you have a choice. You could either keep it uncountable, they showed excellent ability, but sometimes we also put the article in front of it. They showed an excellent ability to learn new information. And that's because we've made the ability specific to a particular, in a particular way. Not just ability, but excellent ability. When uncountable nouns describe another noun, the phrase can be countable. Let's take bread. Often bread is uncountable. I've got bread. How much? I don't know. It's just bread. But now we have bread rolls. So here the bread is describing the noun rolls. And bread takes the role of an adjective here. I've got 3 bread rolls. It's become part of a countable noun phrase. Sometimes we could differentiate between the material and something made out of the material. The material is often uncountable, such as glass. Glass is made from sand, limestone and soda ash. That's glass. That just describes glass, the material in general. But now I've made something out of the material. Can I have a glass, please? So this is going to be a glass that I drink from. It's still glass, but it's made out of the glass into something else. Some uncountable nouns become countable when specifying instances. Look at the example with experience here. Experience is vital for this task. Here, experience is uncountable. But I've had 2 good experiences of excellent teaching at this university. Do you see the difference here? Experience is vital for this task. We're talking about the idea of experience. In the second sentence, we're talking about 2 specific instances where the person got experience. 2 good experiences of excellent teaching at this university. They could have said on this day in this place and on that day in another place. Some countable nouns become uncountable with certain determiners. So what we mean here is that the word actually changes from being countable to uncountable simply by putting it after a determiner, such as ambition. The girl listed 2 ambitions she had for the year. 2 ambitions, countable. But she didn't show much ambition. Now here we're using that determiner much, which goes before uncountable words. Because we've used much, ambition now takes on an uncountable form. We're talking about ambition in general here, not the specific ambitions that the person has. And it's changed because of the word much. A few nouns are countable with small quantities, but they are uncountable as a mass. Look at hair, for example. Now, if you're very unlucky, you might look in your food one day and find 2 hairs. There's 2 hairs in my food. 1 hair, 2 hairs. But we can't count all the hairs on someone's head. It's too difficult. So when it becomes a mass, we make it uncountable. I don't have much hair. Some words change from countable to uncountable with a meaning change, such as light. The lights were turned on. Look at the picture here. Here we have physical objects that provide lights, and we call them lights. Here it's countable because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. But we could also say the room was full of light. And here we mean the state of light generally, comparing light with dark. Here it's uncountable because we're focusing on the quality of light that there is in the area. And other words that work like this are work, so the activity of doing work. This is usually uncountable, but when it's described in an artistic way, then we can say works. They displayed their works in the art gallery, for example. Business is usually uncountable when describing it generally as a concept. But if you own a company, then you own a business. So here, a business is just one company. And you can have 2 businesses, 3 businesses, 4 businesses, which are companies that exist individually. But business also is to do with the whole idea of buying and trading around the world. Also with room. If there is a lot of room, it means you have a lot of space. But you can go to a house with 5 rooms. And these mean the specific areas in a building. So room changes to countable when the meaning changes from just describing space in general to specific areas in a building. And some nouns are always in the plural form, even though they're uncountable, such as athletics. I'm watching athletics. Here we have the S at the end. It comes across as being a plural, but we always use it in the same way, and we don't count it. We don't say 2 athletics, 3 athletics. It's just athletics. Other words that work like this are clothes. Clothes is always plural, but we never count it. We never say 2 clothes, 3 clothes, 4 clothes. You have to use that extra noun in order to do that. Goods describes all the items that you have perhaps in a factory, but it's always just goods. It's never counted on its own. It's not 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goods. And ruins, which is an old building that's fallen down. Ruins is always plural, but never counted. We don't say 2 ruins. We just say, here are the ruins. We might possibly count it if you have 1 house that's falling down and another house that's falling down next to it. You could possibly say there are 2 ruins in this area. But if you're focusing on one particular building and you see some bricks over here, a pillar there, different areas of materials, bricks, stones, you would just say them all together as ruins, all as one.